Now we're going to call on the president to give us the January 8th date. Can you hear me, comrades? Comrades.
Ramaphosa renurata kaufela.
Amandla. Viva ANC, viva. Viva COSATU, viva. Viva South African Communist Party, viva. Malibongwe. Igama lamakhosikazi. Roar, young lions, roar. Forward with the ANC Veterans League, forward. Tsuga Sanko, Tsuga. Amandla. Amandla. Long live the spirit of Reverend Mahabane, long live. Long live the spirit of Dr. James Moroka, long live. Long live the spirit of Dade Thomas Mapikela, long live. Amandla. Dumela. Dimasiari. Abhishek. Sanbonani, Molweni, Lochani, Huye Medach. Good afternoon, comrades and friends. Comrade Goede Mantashe, the National Chairperson of the African National Congress, Comrade Paul Mashatile, the Deputy President of the African National Congress, Comrade Fikile Mbalula, the Secretary General of the African National Congress, Comrade Nomvula Mukonyani, the First Deputy Secretary of the ANC, Comrade Marupini Ramokhopa, the Second Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Dr. Gwen Ramokhopa, the Treasurer General of the ANC, members of the National Executive Committee, newly elected, who are sitting here just behind me, Araba Shapelem Matsoho Lebona. The leaders of our organization here in the Free State, as led by the convener, Comrade Zukwana, Dukwana, not Zukwana, Dukwana. The President of COSATU, Comrade Zingi Swalosi, the General Secretary of the SACP, Comrade Solima Paila, the leadership of the Women's League, the leadership of the Veterans League, and the leadership of the Youth League, and representatives of Umkhonto weSizwe, Liberation War Veterans, and the leadership of the various other organizations, fraternal organizations who have come from far and afield, from a number of countries in Southern Africa, some as far as Palestine, who are here with us today. Members of the diplomatic corps, leaders of religious organizations, our traditional leaders, also as represented here by Contralesa, comrades and friends and the people of South Africa. We gather here today in Mangaung, the birthplace of the African National Congress, inspired by the forebears and the founders of our movement, to present to you the statement of the National Executive Committee, a statement which you can read in its extensive form online and on our website, but I will be presenting a summarized version thereof. 111 years after the formation of the African National Congress, the spirit of resistance against apartheid, colonialism, and the courageous struggle for liberation and democracy remains present and powerful. This spirit calls upon us to recognize the injustices of the past. It also calls upon us to honor those who suffered and sacrificed for freedom in our land. This is the spirit that led the gallant leaders of our movement, like Reverend Mahabane, Dr. Muroka, and Tate Thomas Mpikela, to sacrifice all to contribute to our struggle. A few days ago, Rile Raipanako, Rachakela, Malapa, Lidibaka Tseu, baetapele ba rona ba patilweng teng. Ntwena setse e le ntwe re tlwaetseng ya hore ha re tshwara celebration ena ya January 8th, re tsamaye bonthong ene re bitsang pilgrimage, re lo etela malapa a baetapele ba rona le bao ba ne ba le dikgosi, ba ne ba le teng ha ANC theiwa hona mona Mangaung. Re qadile ka ho ya Seisoville mane Kroonstad, re tsamaya re le di-officials tsa mokgatlo ona wa lona, ra ilo etela lelapa la Ntate Mahabane o ileng a ba president ya ANC go tloha ka 1924 ho fihlela ka 1927. A pheta hape a fumana kgetlo la bobedi, term ya bobedi ya ba moetapele wa ANC ka 1936 ho fihla 1940. Re ile ra ya lapeng la hae ra kopana le ba lelapa, ra tswa mono ra ya mo a patilweng teng, ka nnete ra isa tlhompho ya rona. Ra re ha re qeta re be re ya Thabanchu, ra ya mo ho patilweng Dr. J.S. Muroka, ra isa tlhompho ho yena ra ba ra bona le lelapa la hae. Ha re qeta ra tla lelapeng la ntate Thomas Mphikela, ra bona ntlo ya hae a na e hahile ka boyena, ra ipha nako ra dula le ba lelapa la hae. Ntwena ile ya re fa moya, ya pheta ya re fa matla le tsebo ya hore mokgatlo ona re ka o tiisa jwang na ha re sheba baetapele bane ba kgale ka tsela e ne ba kopantse ANC ka yona. Ntweno he ile ya amohelwa ke batho ba bangata ba dulang haufi le bona mo ba ne ba dula teng, ba amohela mosebetsi ona o motle wa ho etela malapa a baetapele ba kgale. This is the spirit that we also want young people to have to resist racism. Today I have as my special guests here, and I'll ask them to come to the stage, the Nakedi boys who were subjected to cruel acts of racism and humiliation by old white men at a resort called Marcel Sport here in Mangaung. Ba kae bashimane bana ke batla hore ba tle ka pele setjhaba se ba bone hore ba ne ba hlasetswe ke banna baholo ba makgowa, ba leka ho ba otla ke bona bashimane bana. Re a ba leboha hore ba ntse ba re phelela. Ehlile ke ile ka bona o mongwe wa bona kenya face-nyana a otla o mong. Re a le leboha bashimane, re re ntho e etsahetseng ho lona e ska le fetsa matla. Ebile you must be strong as young men. The message I want to give to you is that the spirit of our forebears who fought against the apartheid system must fill you with courage, as it does all of us. But we also want to send a clear and straight message to those in our country who still want to perpetuate racism. And we say, South Africa today, we do not want racists here in South Africa. Haiba. If you want to practice your racist tendencies, South Africa is not the place to come and practice them. South Africa belongs to all of us. And if you practice racism, we will make sure that you feel the might of the law, because the people of South Africa will never, ever, ever allow racism to reign in our country again. As Nelson Mandela, the father of our democracy, said. We honor these young men, we thank them, and we also thank their parents for having stood firm to make sure that they resist the racist acts and practices that were being perpetrated against them. It was such a shameful act to see old white men trying to throttle these young men and to drown them in a pool underwater. A most shameful act to perpetrate against young boys like these. And that is why they are my guests. Ke a le leboha bashimane le dule le tiile le ska tshaba makgowa. A ona ntho e tshwanetseng hore le etse le tshabe makgowa. A ba sena nako, a ba sena matla. Ntho ya bona ya apartheid e fedile. Le tie bashimane. This spirit demands of all of us to fundamentally transform the living conditions of all citizens and free the potential of each and every person in our country. This spirit of struggle was clearly evident at our 55th National Conference, where delegates from all over the country set out a program of action to build a better future. Ke ema mona, ke leboha bongata ba lona ba ne ba rometse di delegates. Bongata ba lona, you come from our branches. Ngithanda ukunibonga kakhulu ukuthi niye nathumela ama delegates aye akwazi ukuthi amele intando zenu. Bayafike conference bakhulume babeke izinto ebathume ngazo futhi bakhethe neinkokheli ezilapha phakathi kwethu. Siyanibonga njengamalungu ka-ANC ukuthi niye nathumela abantu ababenolwazi ababazi ukuthi bayenze umsebenzi onjani. Batho bane le ba rumile ka nnete bane ba ipontsha hore ba ikemiseditse hore ba le emele. A ba etsa bohlaswa, bane ba sa tsamaye hohle ba ya dipating o kapo ba nwa jwala. Bane ba le batho bane ba ikemiseditse ho ba conferenceng. Re a le leboha le le di branches tsa ANC ha mi khensa swinene ku ri mi rhumele vanhu va kahle ka conference ya ANC. Vanhu lava nga mi yimela kahle ka leswi hinkwaswo hi nga swi endla a conferenceni. We are at a moment of fundamental consequence in the life of our country. The people of South Africa are going through tough times. Our people are going through difficult times at this point in time. Many people are unemployed, and many of them have lost hope of finding employment or even setting up viable businesses. Young people are most affected. More than a third of young people aged between 15 and 24 years are not in employment, they are not in education, and they are not in training. The electricity crisis in our country continues to undermine economic growth and investment. Load shedding damages businesses, disrupts households, and compromises the provision of social services. Load shedding also has a negative impact on important processes in our country, such as food production. Lawlessness, criminality, kidnappings, illegal mining, construction sites, extortion, cable theft, and violence mean that many people, and especially women, continue to live in fear in our country. Due to the rising cost of living, many households are finding it difficult to meet their most basic needs, such as food, transport, and energy. Many municipalities are failing to perform their basic functions, such as delivery of clean water, regular waste collection and maintenance. Maloba ne ke le botshabelo mo ne ke bua le batho ba heso ba ile ba njwetsa hore masepala wa bona wa mona Mangaung ka nnete a o ba sebeletse ka tsela e nepahetseng. Ba ile ba njwetsa hore masepala ono ho na le hore o ntlefatse maphelo a bona o ba khutlisetsa morao. Ntho tse ngata tse tlameileng hore di tsamaye ka tsela e nepahetseng ka nnete a di etsiwe. Di-councillora tsa rona di iketsetsa thato tsa tsona. And asimo botshabelo kapo mo Mangaung fela le dibakeng tse ding tse ngata mona South Africa re fumana hore bo masepala ba rona ka nnete ba hloleha ho etsa mesebetsi e ba tlameileng hore ba etse. Ho a tlameha he hore ho be le seo se re tla se etsang ho lokisa bo masepala ba rona. Many communities are severely affected by climate change in the form of extreme weather conditions such as drought, fire and floods that destroy their homes, their schools, their roads, bridges, and cause havoc for their businesses. Riboni ka selemo se fitileng hore pula e sentse hakana kakhulu e-KZN nase Eastern Cape nase Northwest sathola ukuthi ngempela imvula imoshe kakhulu ibhidlize izindlu zabantu amabroho nezindlela. As I said earlier, racism is also rearing its ugly head, and this is a challenge that we have to address on an ongoing basis. We must be clear about the tasks that we have to undertake to address these challenges, because these challenges threaten to erode the hard-earned gains of our democracy. And accordingly, the 55th conference of the ANC has firmly resolved that urgent and decisive action must be taken to place our country back on a developmental path that puts the interests of our people ahead of individuals' interests, ahead of any other person's interests. The conference also resolved that to adequately respond to the difficulties that are facing our people today, as the ANC, we must deal decisively and fearlessly and urgently with our own weaknesses. In this regard, the ANC National Executive Committee has decided on the following immediate priority actions for 2023. Firstly, we will undertake specific initiatives and programs to deepen the renewal of the African National Congress. Secondly, we will accelerate the work that is underway to end load shedding. Thirdly, we will mobilize social partners to increase employment and investment and deepen empowerment and transformation. Fourthly, we will improve the delivery of basic services and maintenance of infrastructure. And fifthly, we will strengthen the fight against crime and corruption. These are the tasks that we must undertake. And finally, we will take action to build a better Africa and a better world. On our first priority, the renewal of the ANC will only be able to advance in its historic mission to free South Africans from all forms of oppression and build a better life when it confronts its own weaknesses. The 55th conference adopted a roadmap to 2032 to guide the transformation of the ANC into a responsive, modern, well-governed, well-resourced, ethical, caring and effective political formation. Comrades and friends, we are now at a point where we are looking at what the ANC will be in the next 10 years. We've developed a roadmap to look into the next 10 years to reposition the ANC between now and then and begin to envisage the ANC of the future. But that future begins today. And that is why we have come up with a roadmap that will take us to 2032. This requires that we take steps to ensure that the ANC is indeed deservedly recognized as the leader of society, that it occupies a moral high ground, and that it unites all South Africans around a common program to fight poverty and inequality. Ntwena ibua hore ANC ena mokgatlo o theuweng ke baetapele ba rona ka 1912 a se mokgatlo wa rona fela re le ditho tsa ANC ke mokgatlo wa setjhaba sohle sa mona South Africa. Ba bang ba rata kapa ba rate ANC ke mokgatlo wa setjhaba. Ho na le bao ba sa rateng ntweno, ho na le bao ba sa e amoheleng, empa nnete ya sala ANC ke mokgatlo wa setjhaba. And then ntweno ba tla e bona hantle ka 2024 ha we wa dikgethong ha setjhaba sena se tla bontsha bohle hore ka nnete ANC ena it belongs to the people of South Africa. We do not pursue the path of renewal for its own sake, but we do so that we can drive our energies to solving the pressing problems facing the people of South Africa. Jwale renewal process yena, it is irreversible. It is irrevocable. Arisa khutlela morao. Bao ba batlang hore khutisetsa morao re re amaemele ka thoko. Rona re tswella pele le renewal yena. Conference yena e re tswang ho yona e bontshitse hantle hore renewal and the unity of the ANC is now unstoppable. It is going forward whether those who want to deter it or not want to do so. We are moving ahead. Aresa sheba morao, re sheba pele. Empare, are tsamayeng kaofela. Are tsamayeng kaofela, re tswelle pele. Re etse hore the ANC is renewed and it is united. Kgetlong lena, di programe tsohle tsa ANC di tla ba di shebane le renewal. Renewal, comrades, it's no longer ukuthi uyazikhethela mawuthanda noma awuzikhetheli. Sisonke kufanele ukuthi sibe kule program ye renewal. Yikho ngithi uyathanda noma awuthandi. Le program ye renewal sisonke sizoyijoyina ngoba yiyona kuphela ezasisa phambili njengo ANC. Our second priority, comrades, is to resolve the energy crisis and to end load shedding. One of the most pressing of these problems is the shortage of electricity, which is one of the greatest impediments of our economic recovery. We need to pursue with greater focus and purpose the measures we have already announced and agreed to reduce the frequency and the severity of load shedding and ultimately to end it. We must return Eskom's generation capacity to reliable service as quickly as possible by undertaking critical maintenance and also ensuring that power stations have skilled and experienced personnel. Ke batla le nkutlwe hantle hona mono. Re batla bano ba na le tsebo, bano ba na le bokgoni, ba be bona ba tla sebetsang ka tsela e tshwanetseng Eskom mane. Eska ba batho ba etsang di-plan, ebe batho ba tsebang ntho e ba e etsang. We must also tackle sabotage, theft and corruption at power stations and streamline procurement. Ka hobane ho na le bao ba bang ba ikemiseditseng hore ba tla ne ba utswa mane Eskom, ba tla ne ba etsa dintho tse tswileng tseleng. Re re ntho tseno di tlamehile hore di fele ho etsetsa hore Eskom e sebetse ka tsela e tshwanetseng. The ANC will lead a campaign against illegal connections and promote steps that every South African can take to conserve energy. One of the things is sitisang motlakase dibakeng tse ding ke hore ho na le bao ba etsang di-illegal connections, ba sebezo ukuthi inyoka-nyoka. O fumana batho ba etsa dithapo tsa bona, ba joina dithapo, and etsa ntho eno hore di-transformer tsa rona di tjhe, di senyehe. In addition to short-term measures, we will accelerate implementation of the integrated resource plan, which includes the procurement of over 18,000 megawatts of generation capacity. At the same time, the ANC directs government to secure additional power in the short term by leveraging surplus capacity from existing generators and also be able to procure additional power on an emergency basis. We must be able to go and buy energy on an emergency basis to close the gap that now exists. We need to urgently upgrade Eskom's network to bring new generation capacity. We have resolved also to reduce our carbon emissions, but we are also saying there must be a just transition that takes into account the welfare of workers, communities, and the industries that are affected. On the third priority of economic regeneration and job creation, the task of ensuring that all South Africans share in the country's wealth is far from complete. Now more than ever, we need to build social compacts to lift overall investment and to create a new inclusive economy. Economy ena ya naha ya rona e ntse e le matsohong a bao ba banyane fela, especially the white minority in our country. We need to ensure that the majority of our people in South Africa do indeed, as set out in the Freedom Charter, share in the wealth of our country. Every part of society has a contribution to make. We need to deconcentrate ownership and control of the economy. We need to increase investment and improve access to finance for Black-owned businesses and SMEs. We need the financial sector to come to the party and help to finance black-owned businesses. Iskare haru nabatubaye subaya di banke, bailo adima chelete, babaju echa hori che, wenar ka sufi chelete, kalebaka lena, rere. The financial institutions must come up with innovative ways of making funding available to our people who want to start their own businesses, who want to continue operating their businesses. We will also use competition policy and preferential procurement and other instruments to challenge the concentration of ownership. The labor market must be underpinned by practices and policies that enhance fairness and equity for workers. The workers of our country must not be subjected to unfair labor practices. And we also say, one of the victories that the working people of our country achieved, which is the national minimum wage, must be applied across the economy so that our people must get moving towards getting a decent wage. In addition, our labor market needs to increase competitiveness, productivity, investment, and employment creation. Government needs to eradicate corruption and to remove regulatory barriers and build an effective developmental state. I must say that the messages that have been delivered by our alliance partners, as in COSATU and the SACP, are very clear on this matter. We will continue to heed your messages, which you have articulated very clearly, about the government, our movement taking steps to rid corruption out of South African life. Community-based organizations, traditional leaders, religious formations, and other social formations must play a leading role in mobilizing society in support of building inclusive social compacts that will deal with a variety of matters that are challenges to our people. The broad-based black economic empowerment needs to be undertaken with greater intensity and purpose. Government will create an environment in which small businesses can thrive, including through the provision of economic infrastructure and the removal of regulatory concerns. Pele re tla mona kajeko lena ho na le bomme le bontate ba rekisang kantle ho stadium mona ba ile ba kopana le mathata ba bang ba bona ba ne ba tloswa mo ba ne ba eme teng ba rekisa ntho eno ile ya rukisa bohloko haholo ha re bona televisioning ba ntshiwa ho thwe abana permit kapo abana license ya ho rekisa tse ba di rekisang kantle ho stadium sena. Ki ile ka kopa Deputy Secretary General Comrade Nomvula hore a shebane le yona taba eno. Ke leboha haholo hore mosebetsi ono o entswe ka tsela e nepahetseng. Ba dumetswe jwale hore ba eme kantle ho stadium ba rekise tseo tse ba di rekisang. Ka hobane re batla hore ho bo masepala ba rona. A very clear message to our municipalities. As you apply your regulations, we say the regulations must be applied in a way that will empower our people. Those who are in the informal sector, who are selling whatever wares or products that they are selling, they are doing so to support the livelihoods of their households. Ha re ba ntsha, re ba fina, re ba batla di-permit, re ba batla ntho tseo tse ngata, ba bang re ba batla le tjotjo, re ntsha boroto hanong ha bona. That must now end. We must create our towns, our rural areas as places of economic activity. Dinaheng tse ding, the informal sector creates many more jobs. Mona South Africa, the informal sector is held back by too many regulations, by too many laws, and I'm saying to our local government authorities, let us free the economic energy of our people. Let us allow our people to trade. Let us allow our people to engage in economic activity. And as government, we will find ways and means of helping to fund them. Gauteng has even passed a law, Eribitang Township Empowerment Act, which allows the people in our townships to get finance, to get places where they can trade, and also to be able to trade. Ke kopa hore a re lokolle batho ba heso ba kgone ho etsa kgwebo ya bona. Let us free our people to engage in economic activity. It is a national crisis that the unemployment rate among young people who are aged between 15 and 24 years is nearly 60%. And this has to be addressed with urgency that it requires. The government that we lead has prioritized the employment of young people. This year, we need to work with young formations or youth formations, such as the National Development Agency, to expand innovative initiatives, including programs that provide work experience, jobs for young people, and to provide finance to young entrepreneurs and create opportunities for young people in public and in social employment. And we also say, re batla hore ba batjha ba hiriwe. Ha ba hiriwa, we must not use a barrier like prior experience pele re ba hira. Ntwenu ya prior experience ai fele. Re nke batjha re ba kenye mesebetsing. Ba kgone ho sebetsa ka bane experience ba tla e fumana kae re sa ba fi yona na. We must therefore employ young people both in the public sector and in the private sector. And we especially call on the private sector, allow our young people to gain entry into the economy by taking them on and employing them. Bring them in so that they can learn the work. But we also say, fund young people. They are full of energy, they are full of ideas, and they are the ones who can take our economy to higher levels. La re le mo, re re ba baholo, le bona re ska ba swaela ka thoko. Ka bane sometimes the older people feel like we are ignoring them. We are saying even those who are 30 years and older must also be brought into the ranks of the employed. We must not only focus on the young, but we must make it a special effort to empower the women of our country. Despite significant increases in levels of enrollment in education, we have not seen the outcomes that our society and our economy needs. We therefore need to focus more on vocational and technical training and to encourage greater enrollment in colleges so as to increase the pool of qualified people with various skills that can make a meaningful contribution to the economy. Re re ho batho batjha, ha re le isa dikolo, re kopa hore le shebe those rare skills that are needed by our economy. Le shebe di skills tse le ska di shebela tlase. Skills such as plumbing, skills such as technicians, skills such as being engineers. The skills no, those are the skills that our economy needs. So the NEC is calling on young people to be more interested in those skills that are going to make a really impactful contribution to the economy of our country. We will increase investment in infrastructure and ensure that it is prioritized over expenditure or other expenditure items. We will mobilize the financial and technical skills that will enable construction projects to proceed without delay. Government and business have built a consensus on a number of impactful infrastructure projects that must be implemented urgently. And these infrastructure projects will improve access to basic services and increase the overall efficiency and competitiveness of the economy. These initiatives will take place along the other structural reforms that we are embarking on with regard to waterworks, to building dams, to repairing our roads. Our roads currently are littered with potholes. Hotle mo re tsamayang teng ke di pothole fela. Re tlameile hore di pothole tseno di kwalwe. Re tlameile hore ho be le metsi mo bathong ba rona ba dulang teng. Ho tlameile hore ditsela di lokiswe. Re tlameile hore re etse ntho tsohle tse tla ntlafatsang maphelo a batho ba rona. The continued growth of the agricultural sector has contributed to the economic growth and food availability. The ANC government will continue to support agriculture by bringing underutilized land into production and providing effective farmer support to beneficiaries of land reform. Our experience when we supported 100,000 small-scale farmers, kadi voucher, siyesa nikeza abantu bethu ama voucher, bakwazi ukuthenga imbewu, bakwazi ukuthenga fertilizer, bakwazi ukuthenga izinto abalima ngazo ngalesikhathi se-COVID. Lolo ncedo luye lafika kwabantu abayi-100,000 ku-Presidential Employment Stimulus ebesiyiqhuba ngaphansi ke-Department ye-Agriculture. Sithi sifuna ukuqhubeka ngaleyo nto because we want to support our farmers. Kakhulu the small-scale farmers, nalabo abafuna ukuba big farmers. We want to continue supporting them. We have already seen that when we give our people support, we are able to free thousands and thousands of hectares This time round, we were able to free 362,000 hectares where our people were able, with the support that they got from government, to plant, to plow, and to produce food for themselves and their families, and also to sell. The ANC is resolute in its commitment to equitable access of land, to reverse the apartheid dispossession, as well as to increase the participation of Black South Africans in agriculture and related industries. When we started off in the 1990s, we said we want 30% of our land to be in our people's hands. We have moved very slowly. Today, only 11% is in the hands of our people. We want to increase the pace. We want to make land available for both farming as well as human settlement, because there is land hunger in our country, both in the rural areas and in the urban areas. Our traditional leaders also want us to deal with communal land and make sure that that land is made available to our people, and we are finalizing our discussions on that. The passage of the expropriation bill during the course of this year will, amongst other things, add to the measures that we need to take to give effect to our 54th National Conference resolution, yes, to enable expropriation of land without compensation where appropriate. That is what we will be seeking to proceed with, because there is still land hunger in our country. We call on the government to implement the outcomes of the Communal Land Summit to address the tenure security in communal areas, as I said. We call on our public representatives to also make sure that we accelerate the passage of the land redistribution bill to enable the state to acquire agricultural land for distribution to previously disadvantaged people. Millions of our people continue to live in poverty, which has been worsened by the impact of COVID-19 and the rising costs of living. We therefore will continue improving social protection for the poor, including through, amongst other things, social grants, free basic water and electricity, and subsidized housing. Social grants should be protected from inflationary pressures and should be expanded to provide basic incomes as fiscal space allows. Until a permanent basic income support is in place, government must continue to provide the social relief of distress grant of 350. 350 ena la elinyani ke ne ke jwetsa batho ba botshabelo maloba ke re la elinyane empa e fihla go batho ba 11 million naheng ena ya haeso. Ha o sheba batho ba fumanang thuso ho mmuso wa rona, re fihlela lenane le 29 million. Ha o sheba hore South Africa mona re batho ba fihlang ho 60 million kapo 61 million. Almost 50% ya setjhaba sena sa haeso ho na le tsela e mmuso e thusang setjhaba sena. Ntwena a e etsahale ka tsebo ya ka dibakeng tse ding Afrika mona. Ke South Africa fela e kgonang ho thusa batho ba bangata hakana setjhabeng sena. a re shapele mmuso wa rona matsoho ka hobane ka nnete e etsa mohlolo ntho ena a e etsahale ditjhabeng tse ngata. On our fourth priority, to improve the delivery of basic service, the collapse, as I was saying, of many municipalities has had a devastating impact on our citizens. Many communities have to deal on a daily basis with many problems. Sewage in the streets, rubbish not collected, poor infrastructure, lack of maintenance. The conference therefore resolved to embark on a more concerted initiative to strengthen government departments, municipalities, and our state-owned enterprises to ensure that they deliver on their mandate. This year, we will implement the framework for professionalizing the public service. Re batla hore sifuna ukuthi kuqashwe abantu abakwazi ukwenza imisebenzi, hayi iphukuphuku abantu abangawazi umsebenzi. Re batla bao bana le ntsebo. Loko hi kuma vanhu lava nga tirhela South Africa, hi lava ku ri hi tiva ku ri hi kume vanhu lava ta tirhako swinene. Ri songosoko hira vathu na vathu vane va si dive mishumo, vane va si ve na vudivo. Ri toda vathu vane va do shumela lushaka nga ndila yo fanelaho. Ive vathu vo gudaho, ive vathu vane va diva mishumo yavo. That's why we say we want to professionalize the public service so that we are able to serve our people at the highest level. And when our civil servants serve our people, they must not do so with arrogance. They must not do so almost like they are doing our people a favor. They must not allow our people to stand in long queues for hours and hours. That is why we say we want people who are real professionals, who know what they are doing. We will use the district development model to plan and to execute all this. The provision of basic services such as water and sanitation will receive great priority. And indeed, we are already seeing great movement when it comes just to water and sanitation, and we are also seeing movement in the provision of housing. We are also going to come up with new ways of delivering houses, new ways of also providing subsidies to our people. One of those ways will be provide sites that are serviced so that our people can build their own houses. Because many people say, we want to build our own houses. So do not delay by wanting to build houses for us. Allow us, free us to build our own houses, but give us service sites so that we can go ahead and do so. We will build partnerships with the private sector on infrastructure finance. Our fifth priority is to strengthen the fight against crime and corruption and to make sure that indeed our country is secure and stable so that our communities are safe. The ANC will therefore take steps to further strengthen the law enforcement agencies and improve citizen involvement in the urgent work of restoring peace and stability. And we call on our people to partner with the police to create safer and more secure communities through effective and well-resourced community policing forums and community patrollers. Where community policing forum works, we find that the levels of crime go down. where the community is involved in yes patrolling, in yes being the eyes and the ears of the law enforcement agencies, we find that crime does go down. We therefore need all of our people to participate. Law enforcement agencies and other criminal justice institutions that were weakened by state capture and corruption are now being rebuilt. We are going to take steps to increase the number of police personnel in line with international norms. Selemong sena se fitileng, re ile ra hira maponesa a 10,000. Jeka ne ke buile ka sona parlamenteng. Ba hirilwe, they are well trained and they've now been brought into the police service. Ba kenya phafa against the criminals. And we are now also going to see how best we increase the number of our police. The ANC directs government to adopt and implement a national plan of action to deal with crimes such as kidnapping, human trafficking, drug trafficking, gangsterism, illegal mining, extortion of construction sites, and vandalization of public infrastructure. In fact, the Minister of Police and myself have clearly directed the Commissioner of Police to set up units, specialized units, that are going to be focusing on these areas. And those units are being set up, and the specialization is beginning to bear really good fruit, and we want that to continue. We will leave no room for criminals. We will not allow criminals to run havoc in our country. We will not allow them space. We are now going to take them on, head to head, toe to toe. If you are criminals, we are coming after you, because we cannot allow South Africa to be a lawless country. Ke khale re bona ditsotsi di ntse di matha hohle hohle ba senya, nako eo e fedile, e hlile ya fela. Re tla le kenya tseleng kapo re tla le kenya tronkong. We must intensify the struggle to end violence against women and children. This means that we must fully implement the National Strategic Plan. We will continue our work to focus to prevent gender-based violence through various programs that involve men in tackling patriarchal attitudes and toxic masculinity. Re re bontate ba mona South Africa, a re ke re qete ntwena ya ho lwantshana le bomme le banana, a re qete ntweno re phele ka khotso kaofela, ka bana ha o hlokahale hore ha o le monna o emise letsoho la hao against motho wa mofumahadi kapo le ngwanyana. It is us men who need to take steps to stop gender-based violence. And we are now calling on the men of South Africa that yes, we need to have our men's dialogues where we will sit and talk amongst ourselves and try to get to the depth of this story. Hobaneng re tshwara ka tsela empi e khopo hakana against the women of our country. We must increase the number of sexual offences courts. The court tsena tse sebeditsang ka gender-based violence re batla re diate. We must ensure all police stations are adequately equipped to deal with gender-based violence. And the women of our country, and indeed we agree, want more harsher sentences to be imposed on those who perpetrate gender-based violence and femicide against the women of our country, and that there must be stricter bail conditions for suspects or no bail at all. That is what the women of our country are saying. We must ensure that government departments spend their budgeted amounts when it comes to the eradication of gender-based violence. We commend the ANC Women's League, the civil society, and social movements who are leading the campaign against gender-based violence. They have raised this matter prominently, and this matter is being addressed as much as we possibly can. The ANC reaffirms its long-standing principle that corruption is the enemy of the people and is committed to taking a tougher stance against corruption. Because yes, we view corruption as being counter-revolutionary. Any ANC member implicated or involved in corrupt activities will be dealt with and must be dealt with according to the ANC rules and policies, and must also face the full might of the law. There should be no exceptions. To enhance the integrity of the organization, the 55th conference has reaffirmed the step-aside guidelines and resolved to strengthen the Integrity Commission and the ANC disciplinary structures and processes. So the ANC calls for a speedy implementation of the recommendations of the Zondo Commission of Inquiry on State Capture. Those implicated need to face the full might of the law, and the ANC will implement those recommendations that relate to our organization and those who have also been implicated amongst us. To prevent state capture from ever taking place again, we are determined that there should be more coordination between various law enforcement and anti-corruption institutions. The sixth priority is about building a better Africa and a better world. To enhance South Africa's development and transformation, we will continue to work with our counterparts elsewhere and on the continent by ensuring that the African Union has the necessary capacity to drive unity, development, and peace on our continent, and to drive the growth, diversification, and development of the African economies. We must ensure that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is effectively implemented. We need to work together with our partners across the continent to realize the opportunities that this treaty has to offer. Our foreign policy stance is informed by the understanding that multilateralism and respect for international law are the key to the global political and economic stability of the world. South Africa continues to advocate for reforms that will ensure that the underrepresentation of our continent in the UN system is properly addressed, and that our continent has a voice at the UN level, and that the global South is strengthened in the multilateral system. We need to support the revitalization of the non-aligned movement. The BRICS group of countries continues to play a critical role in setting global developmental agenda and promoting financial stability. This year, South Africa will have the honor and the privilege to be chair of BRICS in 2023. South Africa will be chair of BRICS, which brings together China, Brazil, India, and Russia. And we are going to have a summit here in South Africa where they will all come and honor us with our presence, with their presence. And we want that moment to be a special moment also, not only to South Africa, but to our continent as well, as we will seek to advance the African agenda at the BRICS platform. We will, of course, want to bring together other countries that also support the developmental agenda of our continent. Having outlined our priority actions for 2023, we now must tend to the tasks of the ANC in the year ahead. Firstly, we will implement the roadmap towards Vision 2032. The conference has adopted this vision to guide the renewal and the rebuilding of our movement, as I said, for the next 10 years. The active participation of our branches, our alliance partners, and other formations in society will be central to the implementation of the 2032 roadmap. Our second task is to build branches as centers for community development. Ama-branch ethu kungabi nje ama-branch aziphilelayo just on paper. Hi lava ku ri loko hi ri na branch ya ANC, iva branch leyi hanyako. It must be a branch that is alive, a branch that is connected with the issues that affect our communities. It must be a branch that holds its regular meetings. It must not be a branch that holds meetings when we elect people for positions or when we go to the provincial or national elections. There are branches that just exist for that. This time round, with our renewal process, we say we want branches of the ANC to be alive, to be brimming with activity, to be well connected to the lives of our people. The restoration of the vibrant organizational life of our branches is an urgent and vital task for our movement. We must build dynamic ANC branches that are actively involved in the life of communities. This includes participation in ward committees, promoting safer communities, and also engaging in law enforcement. To strengthen our branches, we must end gatekeeping. Ntwane ya hore hona le batho ba ema Mangaung ba sitisa ba bang hore ba join ANC, re batlo re fele. O mong lo mong o na le tokelo ya hore abe setho sa African National Congress. Ho ska ba le batho ba no ba tla reng ha ba tlo joina ANC o joina nna pele. Wena a se wena Jesu Kriste a re tle ho ANC ka wena, re tlela ho ANC ka borona, re batla hore ntho eno e fele. We will build on progress that we have made on the new membership system, which has improved our ability to restructure our organization. Our third task is to build a new cadre, that those who are members of the ANC must know that they have certain responsibilities. We want them to adhere to the highest standards of organizational discipline and revolutionary morality. Our cadreship must reflect South African society. We must be able to attract progressive people from all classes, from all racial groups, from all faiths and cultures. While building and expanding our mass membership, we should also ensure that we build quality cadreship. A cadreship that is well-trained, cadreship that will know that, yes, they must participate in the activities of the ANC and be able to engage in the political education that is offered through the O.R. Tambo School of Leadership. Our fourth task is to rebuild our leagues. The Veterans League, the Women's League, the Youth League, each have critical roles to play in enabling the ANC to serve the people of our country. The Women's League has been active in championing the interests of women, while the Veterans League has added much value to the program to renew and to rebuild our movement. The Youth League, it has the capacity and the ability to mobilize young people, particularly as we go towards the 24 elections, where they will be able to get as many young people as possible to register. The leagues need to have functional structures, dynamic programs, and be able to move towards their own conferences and elect their own leaders. So we are looking forward to this year as the year when our leagues will come out of intensive care and go and elect their own leaders so that they can operate effectively on their own. The fifth task that we have is that we must strengthen the alliance. The 55th conference stressed the strategic and significant role of the alliance and the broad mass democratic movement in terms of the role they have played in our struggle for liberation, and that we all have a role to play to continue to transform South Africa into a national democratic society. The alliance constituted by the ANC, COSATU, and the South African Communist Party must now confront new strategic questions about relevance, renewal, and also, yes, the reconfiguration of the alliance. Now, despite many discussions of the reconfiguration, this matter has not received the adequate attention that we all need to give it. We therefore need to make sure that we give it the adequate attention and ensure that we address this matter to finality. An economic and energy alliance summit should be convened to develop a unified program on the most effective way to use all policy instruments available to drive inclusive growth and transformation. The ANC and the alliance and its alliance partners must act together in a decisive and principled manner to advance to a more inclusive, equitable, and sustainable future for our country. Our sixth task as the ANC is to register large numbers of citizens, especially young people, for the 2024 elections. Now, this is a task that all of us seated here today, members, supporters, and guests and all, we need to make sure that we register as many people as possible for the forthcoming elections. Voter participation has been going down over the years. We now need to upgrade it. And unless we reverse this trend, we will have great difficulty as the African National Congress of ensuring that our majority is retained. Our seventh task is to strengthen governance and advance transformation. To improve governance, the ANC will strengthen its internal mechanisms of monitoring and implementation of policies and ensure accountability work is done in government. Among other things, all public representatives and members of various executives, be it at provincial or national level, will have to report annually against key performance areas. Haiba, obeiwe stulo, and how do this stulong say no? Mo tlameileng o sebeletse setšhaba, wena o isitse boroko, o tla ntshiwa setulong seno. Re batla batho ba tla sebeletsang setšhaba. ANC January e tla ba e re sheba kaofela, rona ba beilweng ditulong. Go tloa ho president o ya tlase kwana, la o le masepaleng, haeba wena o isitse botswa le boroko le hore o etsa dintho tse tswileng ka tseleng, o tla ntshiwa setulong. Ke batla hore ntho eo e hlake hantle, mang le mang a utlwise hantle. Conference resolved that, yes, we should deploy people on merit. This is an important process of our renewal program to ensure that we have people who are fit for purpose. In recent years, we have had to deal with the issue of unstable coalitions in local government, where we were combined with other parties to govern largely our municipalities, and we have found that those coalitions are unstable. The ANC and our alliance partners need to develop a more coherent approach to coalitions. This approach must safeguard socio-economic transformation and sustainable development, service delivery, accountability, and active citizen participation. Coalitions must not be about the sharing of spoils and positions. They must be about serving the interests of our people. Our eighth task is to ensure effective communication and social mobilization. The ANC needs to communicate its policies, its achievements, and challenges more effectively and consistently. Every ANC member, leader, and deployee must understand that they are communicators who, through their words and actions, help to shape public perceptions about the movement. Re batla ntwena ya hore o molomong ha bua ka ANC a be a ipuela tsa hae fela tse tswileng tseleng, e ka ba ka Twitter, e ka ba ka Facebook. Re batla hore kaofela ha re bua ka ANC, re be re bua ka ANC ka molaetsa o le mong, laeba re bua ka melomo e fapakaneng. Ho na le bao ba ba ratang hore ba pharowe ba ipueletsa bona fela. Re fumane hore ba ntse ba atheka ba bang mokgatlong. Re batla hore ntho eno e fele. Re batla hore ha re bua, re bue hantle ka ntho tse ntle tse etswang ke ANC. Re tla ba re shebile rona kaofela hore re bua jwang na. The ANC must rebuild international solidarity networks we must also intensify engagement with our former liberation movements in Southern Africa, and we continue to pledge solidarity with the people of Palestine for freedom, independence, justice, and equality. The ANC reiterates the call for the right of self-determination of the people of Western Sahara, and we will continue to strengthen the long and traditional bonds that we as the ANC have with the Polisario Front, Yabatuba Western Sahara. We also support the calls for the lifting of punitive and unfair sanctions against Zimbabwe, against Venezuela, against Cuba, against Iran and Syria, as well as elsewhere in the world. Sanctions that have been imposed unilaterally and unjustifiably, causing immense suffering and hardships to ordinary citizens of those countries. I have often said, for the sanctions that are imposed on Zimbabwe, they are the sanctions that weaken the Zimbabwean economy. And as the Zimbabwean economy has become weaker, it leaves many of our fellow Africans from Zimbabwe with no option but to come over the border to Botswana, to South Africa, to Namibia, because they are being subjected to harsh economic conditions. So we say those sanctions must be lifted, because if they are lifted, the economy of Zimbabwe will once again grow, and many of our fellow African Zimbabweans will see no need to come to other countries. They will stay in their own homes, because people often want to stay in their homes to advance the interests of their families. Our 10th and final task is to modernize the ANC and ensure its financial stability. We recognize that we need to modernize the ANC operations and ensure that the ANC has the necessary resources to undertake its work. Conference recognized the heavy reliance we have on the private sector, but last night was a wonderful moment when we had a gala dinner which was oversubscribed by business people, many of whom don't even do business with government, who just came out in their large numbers to come and support their glorious movement. And I want to thank those who came, supported and led by the Progressive Business Forum. And we call on other businesses, yes, continue supporting this organization so that it can be financially stable. To ensure the sustainability, we want the state to more fully fund the activities of all political parties in proportion to their electoral support. Le re bona re le tjena, asina umona, asina inzondo, sithi yebo uhulumeni makasapote onke ama-political party, ngoba kufanele ukuthi sisapote i-democracy yethu. This is important for protecting our independence and transparency and accountability. The ANC will implement an organizational redesign process as well. On the occasion of January 8th, we honor the courage and dedication and selfless service of those veterans, stalwarts, and activists who have passed on. In the year, we want to mourn the passing of our Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Jesse Duarte, in July last year. This was a great loss to our movement. For close on to 10 years, Comrade Jesse served the movement as Deputy Secretary General and served the organization for 25 years. As we conclude this important gathering marking the 111th anniversary, we rededicate ourselves to the fundamental transformation of our country and to the renewal of the ANC. In furtherance of these goals, the 55th National Conference declares 2023 as the year of decisive action to advance the people's interests and to renew our movement, the African National Congress. It is fitting, as we sit here under the watchful gaze of our founders, that we honor our veterans who have made lifelong commitment to serving the people of our country with integrity, humility, and dedication. And today we have the honor of having Isitwalandwe, Mama Sophie de Brain amongst us. As Isitwalandwe, Mama Sophie de Brain was one of those brave women who marched on the Union buildings to demand that the apartheid regime must not impose past laws against the women of our country. As an ANC member, each one of us has an individual responsibility to those who have walked this path before and for generations that will follow, to emulate our veterans' lifelong service in the people's interest. We draw inspiration, great deal of inspiration from Bertolt Brecht, the German communist playwright poet, when he said, some people will wage a struggle for a day, and that is good. Some people will wage a struggle for a year, and that is better. Some people will wage a struggle for many years, and that is even better. But there are those who will wage the struggle for their entire lives. They are the ones we cannot do without. And Comrade Sophie de Brain is one of those. The struggle must continue. We must continue to renew the African National Congress. It is only when we renew the ANC and unite it that we will be able to transform our country. We will be able to build a strong economy that will create jobs. It is only when the ANC is renewed that we will be able, yes, to create jobs for the young people of our country, that we will be able to fight gender-based violence, that we will be able to deal with the criminals in our country, that we will be able to have local government that will serve the interests of our people. So, comrades, let us go on and renew the African National Congress, knowing that this job is irreversible. Ke terena a e khutlele morao e tswella pele fela. Ha o sa tšhetše e tla o thula terena ena. Ha o sa tšhetšele ka thoko kapa wa ikalama ka nnete e tla o thula. Ntho e betere ke gore o palame terene ena re tsamaye mmogo to renew the African National Congress and to unite it. Amandla, matla, manda, matimba, all power, al mach and dimense, amandla. Happy birthday ANC, happy birthday, Ke a leboha.